The Galactic Coalition's training facility on Kepler 442 hummed with the usual cacophony of 1,000 different species attempting to coexist. Commander Zyxther, a towering Kralian with chitinous armor that gleamed under the artificial lights, surveyed the latest batch of recruits with his 6 compound eyes. Among the sea of scales, feathers, and exoskeletons, one creature stood out for all the wrong reasons. Ana Rodriguez, the only human in a cohort of 300 alien soldiers. Pathetic, Zyxther clicked in standard galactic, his mandibles clacking with disdain. Look at it. No natural armor, no venom sacs, no enhanced musculature. The humans send us their weakest specimen and expect us to forge warriors. His second-in-command, a serpentine thesic named Eslara, coiled closer to observe the human female. Ana stood at barely 1.7 meters, her soft pink skin exposed except for the standard issue uniform that looked comically oversized on her frame. She carried no visible weapons, no biological advantages that Eslara could detect. "The protocols say we must attempt training, Commander," Eslara hissed, "even for this." Ana said nothing, her dark eyes moving between the two officers with an unsettling calm that neither alien recognized as dangerous. She had learned long ago that underestimation was humanity's greatest weapon. The training regimen for coalition soldiers was brutal by design. It had been developed over centuries to push every species to their biological limits. The mortality rate hovered around 12%, considered acceptable losses in the pursuit of creating an elite fighting force capable of defending the galaxy's borders from the Void Swarm. For 3 weeks, Ana endured. While Kralian recruits lifted massive weights with their 4 arms, she struggled with a fraction of the load. While Thesic recruits navigated obstacle courses designed for their flexible bodies, she crawled and climbed with agonizing slowness. While the flying Aetheri soared through aerial combat simulations, she remained grounded, her bipedal form a constant limitation. The other recruits began calling her squishy in various languages, a term that required no translation. Even those species known for their empathy kept their distance, unwilling to associate with certain failure. But David Chen noticed something the others missed. David was the facility's xenobiologist, a human scientist who had been studying coalition species for the past 5 years. He watched Ana through the observation windows, his trained eye catching details that the military instructors dismissed. The way she observed every creature around her. The small notebook she kept, filled with sketches and notes written in an archaic Earth language called Portuguese. The way her breathing never became truly panicked, even when she failed exercises that should have broken her spirit. "She's not struggling," David muttered to himself. "She's studying." On the 22nd day of training, Commander Zyxther made his decision. "The human has failed every physical metric," he announced to his staff. "Continued training is a waste of resources. However, before we dismiss her back to her primitive world, she will serve one final purpose." The Kralian's plan was simple, and by his species standards practical. The facility maintained a combat arena where recruits faced live opponents to test their skills. The arena's current residents were a pack of ravagers, 6-legged predators from a death world in the Scorpius sector, kept hungry and aggressive for training purposes. New recruits typically faced 1 ravager. Those who showed promise faced 2. Zyxther decided Ana would face all 12. "Consider it a demonstration," he told the assembled recruits, forcing Ana into the arena's staging area. "Your human governments insist your species deserves a place among the stars. Let us see what happens when soft flesh meets true predators. Perhaps the lesson will be educational for all." The crowd of alien recruits gathered around the arena's viewing platforms, some clicking or chirping with anticipation, others with what might have been pity. David pushed through the crowd, his face pale. "Commander, this is murder," he shouted. "Those ravagers haven't been fed in days. They'll tear her apart in seconds." Then perhaps humanity will learn to send better representatives, Zeichster responded coldly. The arena is sealed. It will open only when the Ravagers are satisfied or the human stops moving. These are the protocols. Anna stood in the center of the arena, a circular space 50 meters in diameter with walls too smooth to climb. 12 sets of yellow eyes gleamed from the shadows of the gate opposite her. The Ravagers were massive, each one massing over 300 kilograms of muscle, teeth, and predatory intelligence. Their scales were designed to deflect energy weapons, their claws capable of shearing through standard armor. The gate lifted with a grinding mechanical sound. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. The Ravagers stared at the small human female, their nostrils flaring as they caught her scent. Then, with a collective shriek that hurt eardrums across multiple species, they charged. Anna didn't run. Instead, she did something that froze every observer in confusion. She whistled. Not a scream of fear, but a sharp, commanding whistle followed by a sound that phonetically resembled "die now," chicken, in heavily accented galactic standard, though the exact pronunciation suggested it was something else entirely in her native tongue. The lead Ravager, a scarred alpha male, skidded to a stop so suddenly that the 3 behind him crashed into his hindquarters. The creature's yellow eyes widened, its aggressive posture melting into something the xenobiologists would later describe as puppet-like confusion. Anna stepped forward, her hand extended. She made a clicking sound with her tongue, followed by a series of gestures that caused the alpha to lower its massive head. She scratched behind the ridge of bone protecting its ear canal, exactly where Ravager pack leaders groomed their young. "Bom garoto," she murmured in Portuguese. "Good boy." The arena erupted in chaos. Recruits pressed against the viewing windows, unable to process what they were seeing. Commander Zeichster's mandibles hung open in shock. David started laughing, a sound of pure relief and sudden understanding. He pushed to the front, shouting to anyone who would listen. "Check her file, her actual file, not just the military summary." One of the Thesic technicians accessed the human databases, its eyes widening as it read. Dr. Ana Rodriguez, Ph.D. in xenobiology and interspecies behavior, 15 years as head trainer at the Terran Megafauna Conservation Project, specialist in predator domestication and behavioral modification. She has a note here that says, "Requested Ravager observation time for research purposes." In the arena, all 12 Ravagers now surrounded Anna, their aggressive hunting behaviors replaced by what could only be described as eager attention. She moved among them like a handler with familiar animals, checking their teeth, running her hands over their scales, making small sounds of approval or concern. "This one has an infection in his rear left pad," she called out, her voice carrying through the arena's audio system. "And these 3 are malnourished. Who's been managing their feeding protocols? Starving predators doesn't make them better training tools, it makes them desperate and more likely to cause unintended fatalities." She turned to face the observation windows, her eyes finding Commander Zeichster. There was no anger in her expression, only professional disappointment. "You people don't train with Ravagers," she said. "You traumatize them and call it conditioning. No wonder your success rates are so poor. Predators don't respond to cruelty, they respond to understanding their instincts and working with their pack dynamics." The Alpha Ravager nuzzled against her shoulder, making a sound somewhere between a purr and a growl. Anna scratched under its chin absently, the gesture so natural it was clear she'd done it thousands of times before. "Also," she added, "die now, chicken is a terrible translation of Data Agra Gatinho. It means lie down now, kitten in Portuguese. It's my recall command. I've been using the facility's night hours to work with these beautiful creatures for 3 weeks. They were desperately undertrained and poorly socialized." David finally made it to the arena controls, opening the barrier to allow Anna to exit. She walked out calmly, the 12 Ravagers following her in a docile line, their tails swaying in synchronized contentment. Commander Zyxther found his voice. You deceived us, failed deliberately." "No," Anna corrected, her tone professional. "I completed every exercise to the best of my individual ability. I never lied about my capabilities. You assumed weakness because I didn't fit your narrow definition of strength. You saw soft skin and thought prey. Humans see predators and think potential partners." She gestured to the Ravagers. "On Earth, we took wolves, apex predators, and turned them into dogs. We took wildcats and made them purr in our laps. We domesticated horses, cattle, chickens, and 100 other species. Not through strength, but through understanding. That's humanity's actual superpower, Commander. Not our weapons or our technology. Our ability to look at something that wants to eat us and ask, but could we be friends?" Eslara slithered forward, her hood extended in what David recognized as respect. "Why didn't you reveal this sooner? You suffered weeks of humiliation." Anna smiled. "Because I wasn't here for your respect. I was here to study how different species approach training and combat. Earth is new to the Coalition. We needed to understand how you think, how you fight, what you value. And we needed to know if you'd value us for what we actually are or dismiss us for what we're not." She looked around at the assembled recruits, then back at Zyxther. "You failed that test, Commander, but the galaxy's a big place. I suspect there are other Coalition members who will be more interested in what humanity can actually offer." 3 months later, Ana Rodriguez became the Coalition's first human head of Xenofauna combat training. David Chen joined her program as Chief Scientific Advisor. Together, they revolutionized how the Coalition approached working with alien species, reducing training casualties by 40% in the first year alone. Commander Zyxther eventually apologized, though it took him nearly 6 months to work up the courage. Anna accepted graciously and even helped him overcome his species' instinctual fear of the small, 6-legged arthropods that had infested his quarters. The Ravagers, now properly trained and socialized, became the Coalition's most effective perimeter defense system. And whenever Anna walked through the facility, all 12 would abandon whatever they were doing to crowd around her, competing for attention like oversized, scaly puppies. The other recruits stopped calling her squishy. They started calling her the Ravager Whisperer instead, a title that spread across the Coalition forces and eventually became legend. Because humanity had taught the galaxy an important lesson. Apex predators don't always have claws and teeth. Sometimes they have patience, understanding, and the ability to turn your worst nightmare into humanity's best friend. And sometimes, the most dangerous thing in the room is the one everyone underestimates: